South Africa needs to find solutions to tomorrow's problems today. There is a problem of air pollution from carbon emissions, water pollution, and the challenge to extend electricity and power to the rest of South African population. The question has become, what solution will provide a long-lasting and sustainable answer to such problems?
The energy sector is one of the areas where new solutions need to be found. The need to find new sources of energy has become an urgent one. Addressing the challenges that South Africa faces around energy requires an all-round perspective by looking at the technological, socio-economic, and ecological perspectives that the problem of a sufficient energy system presents.
Welcome to the CSIR, where the key focus is conduct objective, neutral multidisciplinary research, technological innovation to foster industrial and scientific development. The Department of Science and Technology is innovative in solving problems, enhancing effectiveness and efficiency.
I believe that CSIR should be assisting government in many ways. One, I think they play a role in terms of providing, I would say advice to government and decision makers. And this is through their many offerings. They do lots of modeling to inform like integrated resource plan development process, as well as research that can inform the technologies that we should possibly consider in the integrated energy plan. But also, I would believe that CSIR, given its history, will actually help us with commercialization of our products so that we can actually really move things from the lab to market, so that research, development, innovation can actually have an impact on South Africa's positive economic growth.
South Africa has abundant wind and solar energy resources that have not been exploited to the full for the country's benefit. It is clear, even today, that in the future South Africa, we will need a diverse mix of sources of energy in order to sufficiently meet demand and reduce the cost of generating energy. In this future, we are all going to be effective since the country's economy and the quality of the life of its people will continue to rely on the existence of an efficient energy system. Hydrogen, as an alternative source of energy, it has great potential for vehicle, stationary, and portable power applications. At the CSIR, research into energy has been streamlined and falls under the Energy Center, where great and impactful work has come to bear good results. The energy sector is one of the areas where new solutions need to be found. Addressing the challenges that South Africa faces around energy requires an all-round and unbiased perspective by looking at the technological, socio-economic, and ecological perspective that the problem of a sufficient energy system presents. The Energy Center at the CSIR is taking huge leaps towards bettering the lives of all South Africans.
The mandate of the CSIR as an organization is to support scientific and industrial development. We take our capabilities into the sector and we present ourselves as a partner in technology development that allows for the development of new capabilities in the sector. In that way, we engage with a variety of industries, from small, medium and micro enterprises that are just beginning to grow to the large existing enterprises that require efficiencies in their products and processes.
The Energy Center of the CSIR is a new research unit that has the vision to provide the knowledge base for the South African energy transition. We see globally a trend towards cleaner and more sustainable energy systems, and we see that trend in South Africa as well. And the vision of the CSIR's Energy Center is to provide the knowledge base for that transition towards cleaner and more sustainable energy systems. Renewables are inherently distributed in nature. They are relatively small per individual power station, so they are spread across the country, and the ownership base of the renewables assets, solar farms and wind farms, has the potential to be real peoples-based power system. And therefore, every South African essentially can become a small mini power station, and therefore almost make a living or make a business out of producing electricity. That's the one advantage. The second advantage is that the African continent will be predominantly be electrified on the basis of renewable energy technologies. So by South Africa taking the lead and converting its existing system into a renewables-based system, there will be a lot of learning that can be exported to the rest of the continent.
The Energy Center has focused its research around 6 key areas that address both the use of renewable energy on the supply side and efficient use of energy on the demand side. Energy demand determines what type and amount of energy supply measures need to be installed.
We work together in that we have had meetings and we are having ongoing discussions with regards to how do we align our activities, because it's also very important that the strategy of Energy Center is aligned with the national strategies and strategies of Eskom. To that extent, where we are focusing on energy storage, it means there has to be a collaboration and cooperation with the Energy Center where they say our technologies are going to be deployed by them. The value that we would add is because the work that we pursue has a focus on cost reduction, but also on sustainability, recyclability and all. So the value that we are going to add, we know that today is not a sunny day, so they would not have a generation capacity as it should be expected. So therefore, with the storage technology, it means that the energy would be available because it would have been generated and stored.
The introduction of variable renewable energies requires a different approach to energy planning from a system perspective.
We need to be able to identify those opportunities that will allow us to consume less energy, and also opportunities that will allow us to shift the load based on our supply in the system. We consume about 30 gigawatt hour per year of electricity on campus, and the target, is to reduce that by 20%.
South Africa has abundant solar and wind resources, which places it in an excellent position to drive a renewable-based energy system.
It's important then also that when you look at energy supply specifically, that you make sure that the correct energy mix in terms of renewable, non-renewable resources are used, and it's important therefore that at the Energy Center we make sure that we understand those different technologies from a supply side, and we then engage with stakeholders to advise them and support their decisions to arrive at the optimal decisions, hopefully from our perspective the correct decisions when it comes to the choice of energy generation or energy source.
The work in this area seeks to ensure that energy systems is analyzed and optimized, focusing on an interconnected system model.
Basically, what we do in energy system planning and operations, we look at the grid of the future to see what it will look like, and then come up with research topics that will look at planning the grid and also how to operate it.
The main focus in this area is to design an optimal regulatory framework for an energy system with a high penetration of renewables on various levels.
Well, at the moment, the country and the world in general is undergoing a transformation in terms of the energy sector. In the past, you had an energy system that was dominated by coal and other fossil fuels, and now you see a migration towards renewable and distributed energy sources. And this comes with certain policy and regulatory challenges. And part of the work that we do here at the CSIR is to try to figure out what sort of regulatory frameworks would best suit South Africa and the world going forward.
Work in this area focuses on facilitating strategic dialogue on industrialization in the energy sector in South Africa.
We do fact-based and scientific research that informs government policy on industrial development within the sector. There's a lot of peripheral challenges that come through trying to build and develop industries from scratch. So Our value proposition then is how do we assist government to inform the policy decisions on how best to position themselves to achieve the goals of localization, perhaps without compromising the main goal of putting electricity onto the grid.
Significant and notable progress has already been achieved under the Energy Centre. It is envisioned that the CSIR campus in Pretoria will draw most of its energy from solar power and rely less on the electricity grid.
The Energy Centre at the CSIR was started about 2 years ago. And the first milestone for the Energy Autonomous Campus was to implement a project of a single-axis solar power plant. That has already been done. It's been completed. We now have moved into a stage where we are monitoring the performance of this power plant. So we're already seeing some benefits with regards to that. The next step for us was to build a second plant, also using the solar technology, but slightly different because this one has, it also tracks the sun, but it is much more efficient than the first one that is completed already. We've just completed the second one now. It has been commissioned already, so we'll move into the monitoring phase. The most important goal for the center will be the learnings that will come out of this whole project, and also how to take it into a bigger scale. First focus being South Africa as a country to try and close those the energy gap, and then spreading to the rest of the region in Africa.
I have the perception regarding the contribution from the CSIR that overseas in countries like the UK, where they liberated the industry, there was these huge think tanks of engineers who spent months and years on studying market mechanisms and develop a way forward. And there's, South Africa is pretty unique in our requirements, and in the current situation where we are largely coal-based, we need to decarbonize. So we need some fundamental new thinking. The CSIR and other research centers are really required to make sure that we do not fall foul of the many vested interests in the industry. So the EOIG is actually willing to support and plug into the expertise of the CSIR to make sure we land on the middle road that will ensure that this transition to a low carbon economy is done in a planned and safe manner.
Progress in the research, testing and application of the new energy solutions requires collaboration and partnerships. Eskom thrives on improving and strengthening its core business of electricity generation, transmission, trading and distribution.
We've been working with the CSIR for many years. We've recently signed a renewed memorandum of agreement between Eskom and the CSIR at chief executive level. That enables us to place a contract between the two companies, and we have a steering committee that then approves projects and tasks that are of common interests to both parties. CSIR is a very respected institution, internationally as well as in South Africa. It's thousands of scientists, very clever people, a good budget, great facilities. So it would make perfect sense for us, two heads is better than one, I always say. It makes great sense in R&D to collaborate. You can leverage your funding, you can leverage your knowledge base. And I find when you get different thinking people in the room, you find different ways of approaching the same problem. So for us, it's a perfect fit.
The South African National Energy Development Institute plays an imperative role in the advancement of clean energy solution towards a sustainable low-carbon energy future.
SANEDI is the National Energy Development Institute that was established to essentially help reduce carbon emissions in the country. We do that by introducing clean energy solutions. The objective as well is to try and create job opportunities for those members of the unemployed community that most need it. In the process of doing that, we rely on collaborative partnerships, and CSIR represents one of the best options for us in terms of collaborative partnerships. In the past, the CSIR has been associated with various pockets of excellence in contributing to various fields of work in the energy space. But now, for the first time, we're starting to see a more formalized structure emerging out of the CSIR. So there's a host of activity there under the Energy Centre which we think is going to add value not only to us as the National Energy Development Institute, but I think also to the broader scientific fraternity.
The Nuclear Industry Association of South Africa is committed to promoting the highest standards in the development and application of nuclear.
Is a state-owned body, funded obviously by the South African government. What we are expecting is delivery to the public. We're expecting that the CSIR will become stays as a neutral, authentic, a go-to institution for all the various technologies. We expect that the CSIR should be technology neutral, should be able to assess the various models and see what is best for the country. We should not have a situation where we as the nuclear industry say the CSIR is on our side. We do not want that situation. Neither should it be the same with the renewables or with coal people. So that's the relationship that we expect with the CSIR as a go-to body that we can always say, yes, when you go to the CSIR, there is no ideology, there is no particular technology that is favored. It is a neutral body. It will look at things objectively and give an objective opinion, almost like a judge in a court.
The CSIR Energy Center benchmarked itself against some of the highly recognized global institutions in the energy industry. Fraunhofer, which is based in Germany.
In Germany, we started very early with the development of renewables. Myself, I'm working roughly about 25 years for wind energy, and in the beginning we were assessing the contribution of small wind turbines, 30 kV and so on. Now we reached multi-megawatt machines, or we are operating multi-megawatt machines, and in Germany and in Europe we are talking about phase 2 of the development of the energy transition or energy system transition. So comparing the situations in South Africa and in Europe, we can say you will start with phase 2. So the early phase is not of interest of you. Wind turbine technology is developed, operation and maintenance is developed and so on. You can make use of our experience and you can directly start into phase 2. Our intention is to export not our technology, to export our ideas, our experience, to support other countries to have the same roadmap and to go the same roadmap as we go.
The National Renewables Energy Laboratory is based in the United States of America.
We have been working with the CSIR for a little while now on their net fit concept. So this is a concept for remunerating distributed generation. For this coming year, we plan to work with them on their renewable resource data set. They have a foundational and very important wind and solar data set for the country, while many data sets exist that can perhaps inform developers about where they might consider deploying wind and solar resources. The difference with the CSIR data set is that it can be used to actually inform grid studies. So you're able to ask questions perhaps 5, 10, 15, 20 years in the future about what the grid can feasibly and cost-effectively handle in terms of renewable energy while maintaining the reliability of the system. Under the 21st Century Power Partnership, NREL is quite pleased to be participating in the research advisory panel for the CSIR Energy Center.
We are thrilled with the quality of the research capability that has been built in the CSIR in the last few years. SAREC wants to contribute renewable energy and renewable energy knowledge, but always in the best interests of the country. And therefore, whatever we do must be good for South Africa.
We want to focus on creating jobs in the South African economy.
The country needs sort of clean, reliable, and affordable electricity at scale and in speed.
People, when they go to buy a fridge, a microwave, or a kettle, you want to look at the energy rating. Is it more efficient than the other one?
There's massive export potential for South Africa that, of course, benefits the economy and therefore benefits everybody in the country.